You guys have been at this for a long time.
Yes, we're impossibly old.
Yeah, well,
John is 150. I'm just 149.
John Flansburgh on the left and John Linnell have been They Might Be Giants for more than half their lives. They are two-time Grammy winners, with 14 albums and a couple of books for kids to their name. On this day, they were playing a benefit show at the Music Hall of Williamsburg, Flansburgh's old neighborhood, where they shot their first music video in the mid-'80s, down the block from a slaughterhouse.
On Mondays, they would split the cows' throats and hang them upside down and bleed them. On Tuesdays, they would take the skin off them, and on Wednesdays, they would boil them.
You had that at one end of the block, but you chose to do the video at the other end. I mean, how could you have missed that video opportunity?
If we shot at the slaughterhouse, we'd have to get permission. That would have been too hard.
The Johns, or the Giants, take your pick, have fashioned a career unlike most groups. Long, eclectic, and uninterrupted for almost 30 years. Their albums have been bought by millions of adults. And there's music for kids, too, both entertaining and educational. Delivered by the Bloodmobile. They won a Grammy for writing the theme music for the TV show Malcolm in the Middle. You're not the boss of me now. You're not the boss of me now. And they've composed for serious news programs and not so serious ones.
The person who was producing it kept saying, well, no, that's not quite network. That's sort of more like local news. And we kind of realized, like, oh, yeah, it has to be, like, really garish and super bombastic and, like, ridiculous.
Their latest project is their fourth children's album, Here Comes Science. Come on, and meet the elements. Which is why they preceded the Williamsburg gig with a performance on Sirius Radio's Kids Place Live. For this album, they added that rare rock and roll component, a science consultant.
It seemed like a really good idea to protect ourselves a little bit by having somebody who's a titled science professional to vet everything.
They have what they call a split career, music the kids love.
Truth be told, the kids stuff is actually really lucrative for us.
And those kids are loaded.
And the parents. They're inventive, successful musicians with influences ranging from new wave to male singing quartets. Istanbul is Constantinople now. It's Istanbul, not Constantinople. But what is perhaps most intriguing is the relationship between the two. Linnell is 50, Flansburgh 49, and they've known each other since they were kids.
I think it's very easy for us to speak for the other one and feel like we're on solid ground, like which makes it for a very easy negotiation.
He's right. The guy, I gotta hand it to him. Keep going. Keep talking, Flansy.
A surface profile of the two might reduce them to Flansburgh the extrovert and Linnell the introverted artiste. But it doesn't take long before you realize that Flansburgh is a serious observer of the band and the music business, and Linnell has a few thousand one-liners. Defying categorization is old hat for They Might Be Giants. They've been praised for being independent and not giving in to producers or record companies, but it's praise they treat warily.
People tend to make a much bigger deal about integrity than they have a right to. We have integrity, but I don't want to be thought of as an integrity act. I don't think it's like, I think there's no percentage in that. There's no big upside to that.
They Might Be Giants have some passionate fans, some a little too passionate.
We did have somebody who very specifically thought we were sending her messages in our lyrics. And then at that point, once we'd found out about that, we thought about leaving messages like, leave us alone.
John Linnell and John Flansburgh have been Brooklynites for almost 30 years, but they first met growing up in Lincoln, Massachusetts, a nice place, but a place with limitations.
You can't liberate yourself from what people already know. It's sort of like, you can't be a guy in a rock band. I've known you since you were 5.
They sensed early on that New York would be different.
If you're into, experimental wig design or fringy rock stuff, New York is a place where you can find a community where you don't feel like a weirdo.
They both eventually found themselves living with high school friends in Park Slope. Linnell had already left college to join a band. When he considered teaming up with Flansburgh, it may have been the first time in history when staying in a rock band seemed like a safer career choice.
I recall my relatives were disappointed that I was quitting the one professional rock band to start the non-working experimental, homebound rock band with Flansburgh. They were like, "Are you sure that's a good idea?"
Flansburgh came here to study art. His musical aspirations were modest.
When we started this band, I couldn't really sing and play at the same time.
They eventually had to stop rehearsing and play a gig. A friend from high school had a rather unusual idea.
She immediately thought, well, I've got this coalition that's all celebrating the anniversary of the Sandinista Revolution, and they need a band. We have not really played a lot of Sandinista rallies since then.
It wasn't until they started making their third album that they quit their day jobs. Their videos played on MTV, and they were unlike any other. But Flansburgh says no one in the neighborhood noticed because no one in the neighborhood had MTV.
The only guy who recognized me in the borough of Brooklyn for the first couple of years after our videos came out was the FedEx guy.
They created Dial-A-Song, an answering machine that fans could call in order to hear their latest recording.
It was just really nice to come into the world as a band with a completely different set of expectations. People are just like, are you guys really a band, or is this some kind of art project? What is this with the phone?
Only a few years after filming their first video on an industrial pier near a slaughterhouse, the Giants made it to the symbol of show business establishment, the Old Tonight Show.
Make a little birdhouse in your...
Their third album, Flood, went platinum, but They Might Be Giants eventually found themselves at odds with the record company and struck out on their own. They found their independence liberating and lucrative.
The phone really started ringing off the hook, and we realized these are the phone calls that we weren't getting before.
Right. So we were screwed by the man, basically.
Yeah.
Which is the name of our autobiography.
Yeah.
There have been more albums, a series of CDs for kids, and theme songs for television shows, from The Daily Show to the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Both are married. Linnell has a young son. Their fans now range from kindergarten age to middle age, but there's still a special connection to teens and young adults. Perhaps because their song subjects are so eclectic, or maybe it's the angst and wit in their lyrics.
Everybody dies, frustrated and sad, and that is beautiful.
What's beautiful is two lifelong friends, continuing to grow and laugh together, taking their admirers along for the ride. New Yorkers still with a touch of small-town New England.
You tend to bring those places with you. So in a way, coming to New York, you have the best of both worlds because you draw something from the fact that you're from some other place.
It's sort of like a brother thing without the problem part of the brother thing.
One-on-one with John Flansburgh and John Linnell, They Might Be Giants, Bud Mishkin, New York 1.